Welcome back to Buckets, WNBA edition. I am your host, Jim Turvey. We've got WNBA basketball tonight. It's happening. It's finally here. Here with me to celebrate of Action Network, of the buildup, of the mandatory. It's Bryan Fonseca. Bryan, how's it going, bud?
And also the post.
In the post. There's too many, man. I can't keep track of it all.
Too many. I plan on going to some Liberty games this year to cover. We'll see. Not a ton, but definitely a few. So,
well, Bryan,
editors are listening.
Go on. What were you gonna say?
No, I said if our editors are listening.
Plan on going to some, yeah. So I planned on just asking, what are your thoughts about the season? We're here, and you're like, dude, I got thoughts on the GM survey. So you're deep in the weeds right here. Talk to me. So we had the GM survey come out today. There were some interesting little tidbits in there, but I think you really you had a couple of things that kind of could launch into kind of your thoughts on the season as a whole. So before we get to anything else, let's kind of big picture. What's some GM survey thoughts you had that kind of tie into your thoughts on the season as a whole?
So I snort the NBA GM survey every year. So when a WNBA GM survey came out, of which there are fewer WNBA GMs. So I found the percentages to be interesting once you get across like, there aren't as many front offices making these votes. Obviously the two things that stood out to me. One of them is very obvious, and it's the love for the Fever and Caitlin Clark and the just optimism around them, which has been backed up by how the markets have moved in favor of them, just making them basically legit contenders in the eyes of many bettors and just people in general. You and I think they're going to take a big step forward this year. We'll talk about like where that could potentially end, whether it's a title or something less than that. But I think the optimism around them is pretty much shared around other people who just consume the league on a regular day-to-day basis, and just people who don't consume the league on a day-to-day basis, who have just kind of loosely heard like, oh, they made a lot of moves. And we know there are a lot of people following the league for one player. Yeah. And that one player is the star of their team who has a legitimate squad now. And it's going to be fun to see them. And the other big takeaway for me was the love for Dominique Malonga. And
your girl.
I've been warning people like Paul Revere. I've been like, yo.
One if by land, two if by dunk.
Yeah, exactly. I've been like, listen, she's gonna be a monster. And this is the most interesting thing to me, right? Because this is literally my exact same take that I've told you privately. I've told other mutual friends this, and I've said this on other programs like my own YouTube channel and other stuff where I've covered the WNBA leading up to the season. Who's gonna win Rookie of the Year? I'm like, well, Paige if she's healthy. But who's going to be the best player from this draft class in 5 years? Ooh. And I'm like, I kind of think it's going to be Dominique.
It's big, baby. I love it. I mean, the ceiling is like exceptionally high for sure. I mean, we've seen it already just coming over, and I'm excited. She has arrived. She's already like in training camps. I don't think she's going to hit the ground running with like 30 minutes a game. I think they'll keep her probably 10, 15 to start. But I think by the end of the season, she could be a pretty big contributor to that front court there in Seattle.
Yeah, like I don't know if she starts this year. Like maybe she gets a handful of starts because of injuries and what have you, or maybe she's too good where it's like, you know what? This is a look that they have to provide. But I think it'll be a slow roll. Like I actually think Sonia Citron is going to have like a bigger role on the Mystics, probably because like they're the Mystics and they're just not going to be very good this year.
Yeah.
But like Dominique, that's the other thing is like Dominique is on a legit squad. Like a legit, I think what could be a top 5-6 team potentially when we're talking about like what, the end of the season looks like. I heard buckets recently where you had their over. You're very optimistic about like their win total over. Yeah. Like I'm right there with you. I saw that it was 20. It's still like at 23.5. And I'm like, do they not know like it's a 44 game season now? You know what I mean? Like, so I
not that feel many like, in a 44 game season right there.
Yeah, and I just looking at them, I'm like, she's gonna be 7th in minutes, 6th, maybe 5th. Like it depends, but like I don't think she's gonna be like top in minutes. But it's a slow burn. Like I think 5 years from now, and even less than that, I think even next year, the year after, we're gonna be like, holy shit, she's doing what? And I think the flashes are actually gonna be this year, but you're gonna see it more consistently in like year 2, year 3. I think it's gonna be a little bit more of a slow burn. Whereas I think Paige, she'll walk into the door and she'll be like, I don't know if she'll pull up like the Caitlin Clark numbers, because I feel like she does have, like, with Arike Agumbawale, I mean, she's probably not going to have to,
Yeah.
but like she'll get her numbers and she'll clearly look like, oh yeah, okay, this is why she was the number one player in the country years ago as a high schooler when I first heard about her before the pandemic. And it was like, who is this Paige
Yeah.
Beckers busting everyone's ass in the Midwest? You know what I mean? On W Slam and shit. Like, we're going to see that. With
The
Dominique,
biggest
it's going
thing
to be
for her,
slower.
I think, will be like if she can impact if she can flip around Dallas, if she can get the Dallas to be a like winning franchise instead of the franchise
Yes.
they have been, that's like, even if she doesn't have the numbers of other players, that's going to be the impact you'll see from her. And I have some faith in it. Maybe not this year, but in the long run, she's the type of player who can do that. But Brian,
Yeah.
do you mind? Can we? It's the opening weekend. Let's dive right in, right?
Sure.
We did a little zoomed out. We got some Malanga takes. We've got Brian on the record saying Malanga is going to be the best player in the draft class in 5 years. But we got basketball tonight, so let's do our best bets, and then we'll dive into explanations on those best bets, and then we'll look at the weekend as a whole. So, Brian, why don't you give me your best bets for this weekend? There's props and games for Friday and Saturday, so we're pretty much focusing on those 2 days. But give me some of your best bets for this opening 2-game slate.
Going back to the Storm, we have a shared bet, actually, which we'll get into. We both have the Storm on the money line.
Yep.
Against another team I like in Phoenix, which is really interesting because I'm pretty high on Phoenix this year, but I'm higher on Seattle, I would say. Also have player prop wise, Nafisa Collier over 30.5 rebounds plus points. Said that weird. Points plus rebounds. I don't know why the rebound.
Yeah.
I don't know why the rebounds came out of my mouth first. That was weird. I'm doing too many shows. And then Angel Reese under 13.5 rebounds. Not to sound disrespectful. It's just, 13.5 is a high number against that front court in Indiana. But we'll talk
for
about
sure.
it.
We'll dive in on these even deeper a little bit. But my best bets here, I've got Fever -7, got the Storm money line, like you said, that's at plus 120. Got Tierra McCowan under 18.5 PR or RP, points plus rebounds, whatever way you want to say it. Ariel Atkins over 14.5 points. And Courtney Williams over 10.5 points. So let's start with let's start with our shared best bet. Let's start with the Storm. You mentioned in passing that you like this Phoenix Mercury team. So why are you with me on this Storm money line on their season opener here?
I like the Storm more. It's probably the short answer. Because I think Phoenix is sneakily like underrated in coming into the season. But I do think it may be a little bit of a choppy start. I like the win total for Seattle more because I feel like, the injection of like Alyssa Thomas, Satsu Sabali, it's like it might take a little bit. Like they might be 500 that first month of the year, and then it's going to be like, whoa, is this working? And then they go on a run like later in the summer. That tends to happen, when you're just developing chemistry in any form of basketball, and it happens in the W. And it's something that like it could spiral your season in previous years because there weren't that many games. Now with 44 games, like you have a little bit more time to work through it. So I'd be surprised if Phoenix got off to like a hot start, even though I think they're going to be good. With Seattle, not as much turnover. Obviously, the injection of Dominique Malonga. We haven't. I mean, she's playing, right? I mean, she's gonna play. Because like there was. Like she hadn't come over for a while, and whatever.
She had I think like some visa stuff that was a little tricky.
Yeah, I mean,
shocking.
You know what? I'll save the comments, but we can go to a lot. This will end up being a WNBA show if we go down that rabbit hole. But I think I think she'll play like a smaller role here. So like you'll see like your usual cast of characters with Skylar Diggins. Not Smith any longer, in case people haven't been paying attention. Neko Agumake, who I think could have a really good season. And I'm very excited about Gabby Williams being there the full season.
Yeah.
Eurobasket's coming up in a month. She's apparently not going to participate. I don't think Malonga is either, apparently. And I think for Seattle, like that's a good sign, even though, I'm Mr. International Basketball and I want players to play, in all these tournaments. But it's harder for the WNBA because it falls like right in their season. Whereas the men's tournament, like men's Eurobasket is going to be late August into mid-September, and no one is going to be in season by then, except for probably Puerto Rico.
By the way, did you see, Brian? They're going to switch that after this year.
What do you mean?
The Eurobasket competition is going to be in the winter now.
Okay, good.
I think that came out literally today. I think players were sick of having to miss W season, And a lot of them are over there during that time of the year. I'm pretty sure that's right. I'm not as deep in the weeds, but I think I saw that today.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much news, like you just missed stuff. I think I won't get into a whole take about it, but you would imagine I think that's a good thing because the
Yeah.
WNBA season ends in October, and a lot of these women are playing overseas. We'll see
Yep.
how much that continues because of Unrivaled and even Athletes Unlimited, which has produced some not produced, but like some WNBA players have made rosters after playing in AU last year, like Bria Hartley, for example. So with Seattle, though, like I really like their depth also. Like the fact that you have like Erica Wheeler, Lexi Brown, I feel like you can close with whoever's playing better on a night to night basis in the backcourt with Skylar Diggins, which I like in terms of that malleability. We talked about Gabby Williams, also Alicia Clark, like playing in that forward spot is going to be big. And I think overall, like I expect them to have a better start to the season. Like I think they might surprise people out the gate. Whereas with Phoenix, I think it's going to be a little bit more of a slow burn. And then in the summer, we'll look up and, oh, they've won 9 of their last 12. Oh, here they come,
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, if people hearing me on the Storm is probably very unsurprising. I've been on the Storm, like you said, they're one of my favorite win totals to make the playoffs. Basically, every way I can get on the Storm. I do think it's a little more surprising that I'm targeting Phoenix here. But here's the thing: there's a couple factors here. I think for one, things coming together a little bit slower. I'm with you on that. Kalia Copper and Natasha Mack both sat out of practice today. Now they might both play. It's season opener, but Phoenix's depth is really thin. If they're missing either of those two, if they're missing any player in any of these games, it's going to put them already behind the 8 ball against the Seattle team where, like you said, I like Seattle's bench. I think that they are thin right now. They had a couple of big injuries, but at this moment, they definitely have a bench edge over the Phoenix, especially if Phoenix is missing either of those two players. So I think this is being treated as, the two are like basically equal. I think Seattle's a better team. And I think that they have the healthier squad. Even if Ka and Mac do play, they might be like a little bit banged up. So I like the Seattle money line. I'll quickly do my fever bet as well. That's the other spread that we have. This number is actually moving towards Chicago a little bit, so I'm going against the market here. We talked about Indiana improvements, and you kind of teased that maybe we would talk through where we see kind of their ceiling. To me, this is kind of about their floor. Like this is a team that I just think is notably better than Chicago. So they got off to that terrible start last year. They were 3-10. Then they went 17-10 the rest of the way. Now that was with the net rating that was more like, like a 14-13 level team. But Chicago is basically the opposite. They started 10-14, finished 3-13, lost Kennedy Carter in the offseason, brought in Ariel Atkins, brought in Courtney Vandersloot, have some interesting pieces. Year 2 of Angel Reese there as well. Year 1 of Tyler Marsh, at the coaching level. But for the Fever, they got year 1 of Steph White as well. So if I use a power rating system that, I have here, this one, I'm really surprised that this guy are taking money, to be honest. I'm wondering if there's a, potential rumor that Sophie Cunningham might be out. So maybe that's some of that. But this team actually has like pretty good depth and especially pretty good scoring depth. I think missing Sophie is not as big a deal as one might imagine when you can, you got Charlie Hull, you got DeJuan Bonner. You have a lot of wing scoring options that I think this Fever team, I think they're going to hit the ground running. They're a fair amount better than the Chicago team. So I don't mind laying 7 points and what I think should be a fun game, but I don't know if it'll necessarily be all that close of a game. So if you have any thoughts on that, feel free to share or hop to either prop that you want to talk about. Maybe talk about Angel since it's a natural transition there from the Fever game.
Yeah, I will. And just briefly, like I kind of agree. I don't think Sophie Cunningham, as much as I like her game, and I think she's gonna have a good year.
Yeah.
I don't think she's worth that much to the spread to where it should be moving that dramatically, especially because I just think the Fever also are a matchup problem for the Sky. Like they're gonna have too much offense. The pace that they're gonna play at, they have better finishers now. I don't know how fast of a start they're going to have because, they're injecting Natasha Howard and DeWanna Bonner into this, but those are two vets and you still have the same backcourt as last year. You still have the same center as this year. I think to some degree, Aaliyah Boston is being slept on in terms of the year that I think she's going to have. I think she's going to be awesome this year. I was very happy to get her in our fantasy league that we just drafted.
Just wrapped on drafting our action-centric fantasy league there.
Yeah, and I was able to get her in the second round. I almost took her in the first round, with the 8th pick, but I was like, I think I could get her around 2. But like, I think she's in line for a big, big year. I love her playmaking too. And I think that's something that I want to see if the Fever utilize that, because I think that's a spot where you can help, or where you can really hurt Chicago in using her free throw line down, have cutters, have these actions like cut around Angel Reese and Camila Cardoso, who laterally like might not be the quickest,
Yep.
as it
Yep.
pertains to like trying to get up to these passes. Like I could see this getting away from the Sky a little bit. But then again, it's the first game of the season. Sometimes like weird shit happens. And with the Sky, I just have a lot of questions. I have a lot of questions about like what kind of jump is Angel Reese going to make? Because I expect there to be a jump. I wonder what that looks like, and really like how much better is she going to finish around the rim this season? Because I do think it's going to be better now that she's adjusted to the pro game, and had some moments also, in the winter, as we saw her in Unrivaled. And then with Camila Cardoso, who was having a good year overseas, like I wonder if she's going to come back and showcase as well. But I would lean Fever here. And then getting to Angel Reese, the rebounds, I'm taking under 13.5. It's just a very high number. And I know, I know she listen, she's an elite rebounder. She demonstrated that. She was a much better rebounder and more productive than I thought she was going to be as a rookie. I thought the transition would be a little tougher. And I would still say it was from a purely offensive standpoint. And even defensive at times too, because like, she's a rookie and all those different things. But 13.5 against Aaliyah Boston, DeWanna Bonner, Natasha Howard, front court. Also, Caitlin Clark is a good rebounding guard.
Yeah.
Like, there's just a lot of bodies there. Also, Camila Cardoso on her own team. There's just a lot of bodies there. So I'm like, is she really going to get 13.5 in this first game of the season? Like, I think she could get close. I think she can get a double-double still. But 14, 15 rebounds, like that was just a lot for me. So I was like, let me take the under there, even though it is slightly juiced to the under.
I will say, Brian, and to a point you made earlier, where if she is finishing better this year, that's less offensive rebound opportunities for her. We highlighted, everyone highlighted how, those offensive rebounding numbers were often coming off of her own misses. Now, I think you can cut that both ways. If you're using that as a critique of her, then you can't, if she eventually scores, you can't really count it as a miss. So like you got to cut it both ways. But if she's getting more efficient, that's less offensive rebound. So I like that look. I'll talk through an under for a big that I have as well. I've got Tierra McCowan under 18.5 points plus rebounds. So you don't want to over index on preseason stuff, I think. But with a new coach, I do think it's worth looking at rotations and minutes in the preseason, especially in the first half of games. Those are kind of like the trial runs, the dress rehearsals, if you will. And Dallas coach Chris Koklanis seems like he might be another coach. And this has happened to Tierra McCowan a lot in her career. She kind of gets mothballed sometimes. She kind of like is this like big name who like theoretically should be starting. And then she doesn't get as many minutes as people anticipate. She was she didn't even start the second preseason game. She played just 12 minutes total in the full game. That was an exhibition game. That was the game against a team from Tokyo. But like I think the fact that it wouldn't be the first coach to kind of phase her out. Dallas is in this new era, new coach. I think there's something there. So you might want to kind of slow play it, but these are also the edges that if she gets played 12 minutes in the first game, that edge is gone. Like we're not getting that line for game 2. So I want to be in on this in some way. The only worry for me here is she does have pretty crazy home road splits, especially last season. She was incredible at home and terrible on the road. It's actually something you could bet. Shout out Adam Lefko. He was on this first, and I was like, it can't be that real. And then it just consisted the entire year. I was like, all right, I guess she really likes playing at home. So she is at home. So that's the only slight worry. But who knows if that carries over year to year? And this really is on the minutes. Is she going to even be starting? And if she is starting, is she getting up to the minutes she had last season? Or are we seeing she's had minutes limits throughout her career? So I'm going to be on the under there. Let me go next to Courtney Williams. I'm going to do Courtney Williams over 10.5 points, and then go to you for fee, because we're looking at a pair of links overs here. So it's funny. I actually like this play even more earlier today. It's now a juiced 10.5, and even by the time you listen to this, it might have moved. I'm going to post these plays in the app, so almost certainly will have moved by then. Earlier today, Kayla McBride, we didn't know if she was going to play or not. And so I kind of wanted to get ahead of this news, because I thought either Kayla McBride was going to miss entirely, which is now the case. She is indeed out. Or even if she came back, I thought she might be on a limited minutes. So now we know that she's out. She is the one who, and Courtney Williams is the one who gets the biggest kind of jump in usage and shots when Kayla McBride is out. It makes sense. They share the backcourt together, and Kayla McBride is a pretty regular shooter. So when she's out, it means more points for Courtney Williams. And this is a Dallas defense that, I'm eyeing overs. I love the fee over. I'll spoil that in advance. I bet the Nafisa Collier points is over as well. Betting against Dallas defense, it does not look like it's improved. Unfortunately, it's a new coach. I want things to be better in Dallas. You texted me today, like, yo, am I crazy to want Dallas to make the playoffs? I was like, I want it too. There's a talented roster here, but it just seems like something's missing. So I don't have faith in this defense hitting the ground running by any stretch of the imagination. So I'm going to take the Courtney Williams over 10.5. I would even play it at that 12.5 number. I've got a fair amount of wiggle room on this one. So feel free to bet that one, likely when you're hearing this as well. Why don't you talk to me about fee over 30.5 points plus rebounds?
It's funny because I don't want to compare Dallas and Indy all year because I feel like people are going to do that for obvious reasons. But the defensive concerns I do have for Dallas, I had them with the Fever last year.
Yep.
They overcame them to a degree, but they still had one of the worst defenses in the WNBA. And ultimately, the Connecticut Sun, who couldn't make a shot, were scoring on them still in the playoffs, and that was something look at what they addressed in the offseason. They knew it also, and they were able to all right, let's get some people who can play defense here. And I think Leah Boston will be the main beneficiary of having those wings. Now, as it relates to, speaking of the wings, should have segued that one better. Now with Dallas, you have a defense that I'm concerned about. Their depth at the front court is sneakily there's talent there, but there's no one that you would consider hey, they're a stopper, or at least not to Nafisa Collier, who I think is the odds-on favorite, or should be the odds-on favorite for MVP. She's not. Caitlin Clark is, but she should be the favorite for MVP, and I think I think a lot of people think she's going to have the fuck you season.
Yep.
Especially after last year.
Yep.
Potentially winning the MVP. And I think with Nafisa Collier, she was really, really good down the stretch of last year. This is something that I think is going to carry over. Over 30.5 points and rebounds is already long gone. It's at 32.5 points and rebounds now. I still probably would take it, I think, because I think she's going to have a monster game. But, I took over 30.5. I don't think anyone in Dallas could stop her. And I think she's going to have a great, great season and a great start to the season, in particular, starting with this game, which is a very favorable matchup.
Yeah, I don't foresee that Dallas front court providing much resistance against Nafisa Collier and just the talent level she's bringing these days. And speaking of bad defenses, we're going to flip back to the Indiana Fever and what I think, is going to be a better defense this year than last year, but won't be at the level that's going to really slow a good player like Ariel Atkins down. So I'm going to be on Ariel Atkins over 14.5 points. I like the key number here, the 14.5. She's a big 3-point shooter. I know the Bet She Wins crew gave out the over threes. I like that look as well. But this Indiana team, I think they're going to play with a lot of pace. They're going to play really fast. It's going to be a lot of possessions. Chicago, last year, their offense really floated on Kennedy Carter. She did a lot of the creation for the offense as a whole. Chicago needs a scorer. And, they brought in Courtney Vandersloot. She's going to do a lot of creation. That's awesome. But they need someone to put the ball in the hole. And Atkins is one of the best shooters, around. She's really kind of primed for a breakout season, I think, in terms of really high usage and getting good shots. So I'm going to be on Atkins in this first game. I think it might be a look that I go back to the well. If she has a little bit of bad variance luck on some threes early, this one could stick around. So I'm going to Ariel Atkins over 14.5. So let's quickly recap. Your best bets were Nafisa Collier over 30.5 points plus rebounds. Angel Reese under 13.5 rebounds. We're both on the Storm money line plus 120. I'm on the Fever -7. I'm on Tara McCowan under 18.5 points plus rebounds. I'm on Ariel Atkins over 14.5 points. And I'm on Courtney Williams over 10.5 points. Brian, I don't know if you saw this in the notes, but I thought this could be kind of fun. I kind of wanted to walk through a game script same game parlay with you. Now we have a fair amount here that we could go with, but I think this would be a fun thing to do in the show, kind of build it out live. And I do think these game script same game parlays are something where you can have a nice little advantage on. So is there any game or any props that you think that we want to start off putting in our parlay and then kind of build a script around that so we can get to a decent little number for our same game parlay here?
I think we have it already because I'm on Nafisa Collier's points rebounds. You have Courtney Williams, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And Tara McCowan under.
Do you have the book open, or do you want me to do it real quick here? Let me pull it up. Let me talk to you. So if we see that script, that's a pretty nice game for the link. So maybe we throw in a link spread, which is down to 5.5. I'm a little bit surprised. I think that's probably with Kayla McBride out, and with Alana Smith likely out as well. So let's see if we put that in here. We've got the spread, and then do we think anyone else like off of that? Like if Atkins is scoring, is that good news for Sloot assists, or do we think maybe that's not worth it? Like, are we getting too greedy? What do you think? Is there any other pieces that would make sense in that game script?
Might be getting too greedy.
Yeah, let's see what the number is.
I do think if we have Collier, if we have Courtney, if we have McCowan, and we have the spread, that's 4 legs right there. I think
that's a pretty good start. Then maybe we can talk through a couple. Like if you want to if you the better wants to get greedy, I mean that's already paying out. That's plus 706. That's pretty nice. That's 4 legs plus 706. I think so I think what you would do is you'd look and say Tierra McCowan points, rebounds under. So we're thinking she doesn't play. So who's like the big for Dallas who is going to play? It's probably like Nalissa Smith. Nalissa Smith points plus rebounds. If we throw her over, it's going to be one of those where it's like, reverse correlated. So now we're up to plus 1451. But we're just talking. We don't have to log this. I just think it's fun to talk through these game scripts because I do think if you are a parlay bettor, that's how you want to be thinking about it. You want to think, what is correlated, what's correlated, but might not look correlated to the book. So I think that's a fun one. We'll say the official one is without Nalissa. We'll say it's links minus 5.5, and then our 3 props that we like, and that gets us to plus 706. So that's our little game script, same game parlay for the day. Then I wanted to talk through some of the games, just kind of what we're going to be looking for in this opening weekend. So a game that I don't think we had any bets from, but the first game, the game that's getting us underway on Friday, is Dream at Mystics. I wrote down a couple of notes here, but I'll get your thoughts first. What are you going to be looking for in this Dream and Mystics game, either from a betting perspective or, a broad picture WNBA fan as well?
I don't know what the Dream are. Like, I have a hard time with this roster. I have a hard time, like, figuring out what they're going to be this year. Like, are they definitively a playoff team, or are they a team that's like, did they get Brittany Griner too late? You know what I mean? Or something along those lines. And then otherwise, like Sonia Citron, who I think has a real chance at Rookie of the Year, I wonder what her role is going to be just generally for the Mystics. It feels like she's going to have high usage. And with Sonia Citron, the reason why I kind of like her as a long shot to win Rookie of the Year, which is like probably plus 900, plus 1,000, is because we talked about Dominique Malonga potentially not like right away getting the big minutes. And then with Paige Becker, she has an injury history. And it's something that unfortunately could be part of this, where she's gotten multiple serious injuries in the past. And also she's coming off of a college season that just ended like last month. Yeah. So right into the WNBA. And it's like Sonia Citron could be the beneficiary just on usage alone for that award. So that's something I'm also looking at in this game and beyond. Like, I want to see what that role is and if she hits the ground running right away.
Yeah, 100%. I think those are really, really fun things to watch. On the Atlanta side, I'm be watching Smesco. Not surprising if you watch any of the previews. I'm really interested in what he's going to bring as a coach here. I think he's going to really hit the ground running. I am cautiously optimistic that this Dream team could really kind of hop into that tier that is like the Seattle and Phoenix tier. Like, I think they have that ceiling with the talent they have on this roster. They're kind of like the slightly better Dallas Wings, where they have been kind of in this franchise malaise for a little bit. They seem stuck, but it hasn't been as long, and I have more faith in their front office and have a lot of faith in Carl Smesco here. So I think that's going to be really fun to watch. I want to see BG and Brianna Jones. Is one of the two of them on the court the whole time? Are they kind of staggered? Are they taking threes? We saw both take threes in the preseason. Sometimes that's the kind of thing that you see in the preseason. We get to the regular season and it kind of goes out the door. We lost Jordan Canada in the preseason. She's out for a little bit here. Tahina Paopao is a rookie that you talked about liking Sonia Citron for Rookie of the Year. I like a super duper long shot on Tahina Paopao. There was a 250 to 1 out there. If Jordan Canada's injury ends up being kind of serious, Paopao fits this system really well. She's going to be taking threes. She's going to be moving the ball. She's probably not going to start from day one. I think they've got Shatori Walker-Kimbrough in that role. But if she's playing better than SWK, like, she could take those minutes and have a pretty interesting season. So I'm going to keep an eye on her as well. Good long shot if you're doing like a fancy WNBA league as well. Then over on the Washington side, Shakira Austin was ruled in, then ruled out. We got to see if she's playing. Like you talked about, she has a little bit of an injury history. So hoping that we get to see, her on the court. She's a great player. And then I wanted to throw it to you for Emily Engstler. I know Emily Engstler is a local kid who you really like, and you've talked her up before. I kind of got interested in her during this offseason. So I want to hear from you about Emily Engstler and what you think she could be doing this year for the Mystics.
I remember watching her at the Jordan Brand Classic because I did a feature on her for a local newspaper, Queen's Paper, because she was the best New York City high school basketball player we had at the time. And she was bringing the ball up. This is before like point forwards were like common, so to speak. She was bringing the ball up. She had a behind the back pass in the game. Like I was like, oh, she's one of these like legitimately has handle, super versatile, whatever. I'm glad that she's stuck in the league because, there was a point where she got cut. And as we know with WNBA players, like it's hard to stick around even when you're drafted high just because there aren't a lot of spots available. And, people want expansion and people want like a G League, their equivalent and things of that nature. But the rosters themselves also need to get bigger, being the first step of that. But, she was picked 4th overall in 2022 for people who don't remember by the Indiana Fever, who at that time were a dormant franchise. They were just a nowhere franchise. Yeah. And, she didn't find a role there. She had a brief cup of coffee with the Lynx, but now with the Mystics, I feel like she'll be able to catch on a little bit more. I do think like with this team who's clearly rebuilding now, I think she'll be able to carve out a role here. I wonder if how big of a role that's going to be, but she has skill. She has better passing ability than she's been able to showcase so far in the W. She can score a little bit. She can be efficient. She can shoot 3 efficiently as well. Rebound, obviously, like she can do a little bit of everything. I don't know if she's going to be like an all-star or anything like that, but there's still some developmental curve that can happen. She just turned 25 also and hasn't had a big role in W yet. Last year, or I suppose her rookie year, she got rotation minutes, but last year, was only her second year getting real rotation minutes. And I think the Mystics, you're just trying to find like people who are going to pop, people who are talented, people who can catch on. And I think she can catch on. I really do.
Yeah, 100%. I love it. I knew you'd have the Engstler deep dive for me there. I was like, I got to bring this for Bryan to tell
Absolutely.
the people. Let's mostly pass over Lynx and Wings. We've talked a lot about that game. That was our little same game parlay there. I don't mind touching on Sparks Valkyrie. We didn't really give any props for this game. I'm watching a few things over here. I want to see Kelsey Plum's efficiency. Her stats before Chelsea returned last season. She wants to be the lead person on a team. I think that's totally fair. She's a great player. Her numbers efficiency wise weren't that great when it was kind of her show. So now she's on a team with no Asia Wilson, no Chelsea Gray, no Jackie Young. How's that efficiency going to look? And the other thing about this is Rakia Jackson. Does she have a jump into that level of like, is her ceiling like a Jackie Young type level? Then maybe that takes some pressure off of Plum. So both of those players, and then obviously pace and threes, the Lynn Roberts edition. We talked about it with Atlanta. Lynn Roberts is me doing the same thing there in LA. And on the Valkyrie side, I mean, it's first game in franchise history. Who knows? We're watching everything here. Who's going to start? What rotations look like? How does efficiency look like? Talking about Kelsey Plum going to LA, potentially losing a little bit of efficiency. Tip Hayes also going from Las Vegas to a new franchise. How are her numbers going to look? I want to see Temi. I want to see how Temi looks. I want to see, is Van Loo really coming off the bench? Are we saying it Van Lowe? So many every question you could possibly have about the Valkyrie. So what are you watching in this Sparks and Valkyries game?
I hope Julie Van Loo causes chaos and just shoots a whole bunch of threes. I wanted to bet her for 3 point. I wanted to bet her for 3 points leader, for threes leader, but they don't even have it listed.
Yeah, that's a deep enough cut, they might not have it.
I feel like it could be plus like 100,000, and I'll be like, you know what? Because I've just seen her on the Belgium national team like go like 5 for 15 from 3 because she's just shooting so many of them, and I've also seen her go like 6 for 10. Like she is going to be a sniper for this Golden State team, who I think is low key kind of fun. Like I was actually happy with their expansion draft. I was like, they have some players like Temi Fogbenlay, as you mentioned, who I think are going to be worth watching. Tiffany Hayes, who I believe retired at one point, and is now going to be playing on an expansion roster. Obviously, Kate Martin, who's probable to play the opener. So I think a lot of people are excited about her for obvious reasons. But Kate Martin is somebody who, like, I think this is a much better role for her than just like warming up the bench in Vegas, where like they're not a little bit, they're much more of a win now team. And this is like a good spot for her to just make mistakes, just get playing time, just be out there for 20 plus
100%.
minutes a game. I think she could potentially be one of their best players. And then obviously Kayla Thornton was not a small thing, like taking her from the Liberty. And I think she's going to be like the vet on this team, or one of the vets on this team, because they have a few. And that was very helpful. Like, they have a sneaky team. I was looking at them in terms of win totals. I was like, are they going to get there over? But I don't know if there's enough quite there. But they have like just some fun players. Like, I'll be tuning in to see what they're going to do, like, fairly regularly, I feel like.
Yeah, and Kayla Thornton there, she was taking a lot of threes this preseason. So I know Natalie Nakase out there, the coaches want them to get a lot of threes up. They might variance their way into a few wins. That win total you mentioned, that one's opened at 15.5. It's down to 8.5. And it has gone down far enough that I'm like, that's a pretty big window if you caught the 15.5 to try and go back the other way. But those are the Friday games. Let's go to Saturday. But first, if you're listening to this podcast, obviously WNBA season is tipping off today. If you're an Action Pro subscriber, we've got brand new WNBA projections that are now available in the Action Network app. So if you're looking for an edge on betting sides, totals, player props, we're gonna have all of those in there. They're going to be great. I'm going to be working on a lot of the player prop projections on the Roto Grinders side. Those are going to be feeding in there. Sean Kerner is going to be doing a lot of the sides and totals projections. He and I are going to be on chatting about that at some point this year on the podcast here. So that'll be pretty cool. Get a little peek behind the curtain. We're pouring a lot of time and effort into those. I think those would be really strong. So if you aren't a pro subscriber yet, you can get $20 off an annual subscription right now. Visit actionnetwork.com/pro to sign up. Get $20 off the annual subscription price at actionnetwork.com/pro right now. A little special promo for start of WNBA season. Love to see it. Let's go into Saturday. Aces at Liberty. This is the marquee game of the opening weekend for sure. They didn't do it opening night. That's fine. We now have a Saturday all to ourselves. I believe there's no basketball at all. It's kind of a nice free open day. We get Aces Liberty and Sky Fever. We get Storm Mercury, which we already touched on tonight. There's a trio of really good games. So hopefully you're sitting down watching these all day. Brian, what are you going to be looking for in Aces Liberty, which is undoubtedly the marquee game of the whole weekend?
The main thing is I've been wanting for literally over a year for the Liberty to get Natasha Cloud.
Yep.
I think it was immediately after they lost the Aces series, and Courtney Vandersloot just looked, all due respect, it just looked like it was over. And I was like, they need Natasha Cloud. And that was when Natasha Cloud was like heading for free agency. She was going to be the big free agent at that point, or one of the big free agents. And I was like, this is who they need to get. And then when she got traded or she wound up with the Connecticut Sun, I was like, they need to go get her because, one, she's exactly what they need at point guard. And two, I don't want to watch Natasha Cloud on the Connecticut Sun this season. All due respect to the Sun and their rebuild, but like nobody's back. Damn near. Marina Mabry, probably the only one.
For now.
Yeah, we'll see how long that lasts. But Natasha Cloud, I can't wait to see this fit. I also think, like in the regular season, it might not look as gaudy as some people may think because she's a true playoff riser. If people have not looked at her game logs and watch her in the playoffs, her playoff numbers go up. The efficiency is there in a way that it's not in the regular season. And obviously the defensive element, I think, is going to be there all year. I'm expecting her to contend for all defense as she has in the past. That's the main thing that I'm looking for. And to see how she does defend this matchup where, like, now Kelsey Plum is not with the Aces anymore. And I have questions about the Jewel Lloyd fit. I have questions about their spacing and how this is going to look around Asia Wilson now. I know Jackie Young's obviously going to be a key component. They brought Dana Evans in to shoot, but I don't know what that's going to look like for the Aces. And I have questions about like whether or not Jewel Lloyd can give them enough shooting and enough efficient shooting to where the offense, is it going to be clunky or not? I guess is my question. So the matchup sort of fascinates me, and I do think it'll look different later on in the year than now. But it's still like I'm going to be watching that for sure.
Well, I think that the final sentence there is kind of what I'm looking at. Like you said, it'll look different later on in the season. I want to see what like kind of the energy both of these teams bring. I'm hearing a lot of like Aces are pissed energy. And listen, I talked about this this is part of my cap of being lower on the Celtics at times. It's really hard to go back to back from like a physical standpoint and a mental standpoint. I'm kind of intrigued to see if the Aces come out and just kind of like pissed off Aces. You knocked us out last year. There's definitely a good rivalry going on here, and they kind of like Chelsea Gray looks so back. Jackie Young is looking and sounding healthier. Asia Wilson's here. They've got everything. On the flip side, Sabrina, the hand thing seems to be lingering. Stewie's health seems like a little bit questionable at times. I'm wondering if we'll have a minutes limit on Stewie in general. I would lean towards the Aces side in this. I didn't bet it because I do think the Liberty are the better team, especially with Cloud, and that this is a 4.5 point spread right now. I think there is a chance that the Aces, if anything, I would bet like Aces minus like 8.5. Like I could see the Aces kind of being like laying the smackdown and setting a tone of like, yeah, we're back. And I could see that motivating the Liberty throughout the season. So I think that's what I'm looking for in this game is like, what's the energy of these two teams and like how hard is each one going after? I think that's the most fun thing to watch.
Yeah, granted, it'll be in New York, Brooklyn, but I like it happens sometimes where like the champs on rig night get their ass whooped. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Or just the night, like we saw this with the Bulls and the Heat a long time ago, and we saw this with the Knicks and the Heat. It wasn't on ring night because it was at the Garden, but like that first game of the 54 win season that the Knicks had with Carmelo Anthony and Rasheed Wallace was making threes before regulation ended. That's how bad it got. Like you see that every now and again in basketball where the defending champions are like showing up and it's their night or whatever, and then they just get punked. Now that you say it, like I'm going to be very tempted by Ace's money line, maybe an alt, probably some Asia Wilson overs because I think she feels somewhat disrespected at least.
They were hitting some big numbers for Asia, actually, because Delara texted me about an under. There was a 27.5 for a second. I wouldn't go over that, but it's moved back down. It's down to like 23.5, I think. So there's a little more room there.
Yeah, that's much better.
Sky and Fever is also a big game, obviously. Caitlin and Angel, lots of talk about, leaning into this rivalry and hopefully in a good, like on-court way and in no other ways.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. What I'm looking for here is the kind of the usage spread for Indiana. There's a lot of high usage players here. There's a lot of like Caitlin was the leader and most improved player when that market opened. She's, like you said, she's a co-favorite with Asia for MVP. I kind of think her numbers, I think that the winning will go up for Indiana. I think her numbers like could go down. Her shooting will probably be more efficient. But there's a lot of high usage players on the team. Natasha Howard now is here. DeWanna Bonner is here. Sophie, if she's playing, if she's starting. So I want to see how that usage spreads out and how quickly they gel together. I have high hopes. I think Caitlin's great and is going to be able to solve it. But I want to see it. I want to see how it plays out. And then on the Chicago side, their defense looked really good in the preseason. I want to see if that's real because this is about as good a test as you're going to find. And Camille Cardoso looked awesome in preseason. She could be having a breakout season here. She could be the core of that defense there. But this is a big early test. So that's what I'm watching for on that side. What are you watching for in this game, Sky Fever Saturday? I believe these games are on ABC, right?
I think so. I mean, I'd be stunned if it's not.
Yeah.
I think the same thing like with Caitlin Clark. I feel like she's gonna have she'll be all W. Like I think she'll be all WNBA. I think she's gonna be great. I think the efficiency is the main thing to watch out for. The numbers popped after the break, after the Olympic break, where she wasn't a part of it. The numbers really, really popped in like a real way. Still getting a ton of turnovers, but like whatever, she has the ball so much. And I actually think that's going to drop this year because she won't need to have the ball as much. Yeah. But I don't think her scoring numbers are going to be like, I think people believe she's going to just because she is who she is, going to average like 27, 28, 30 points per game this year. And I don't think she is because she doesn't need to. Like she has legitimately players. Yeah, she doesn't need to. I think the assists. See, you and I were on this last year. We took her under points per game, and that hit because it was like, they think she's going to walk into the league and just average like 22 points a game or whatever it was. And that's not going to happen. Now she could probably get to 22, but I think now people think she's going to get to like 25, 27. Yeah. But the assists, you and I were like, well, that is a little bit of a different story. And that's where she demonstrated like, yeah, she's already a high level passer in this league. She's already one of the best passers in this league. And I think the assists are something that could go up, but I also think there's going to be possessions where like other people can cook on this team. DeWanna Bonner can still do things off the dribble. She can run pick and rolls with Aaliyah Boston. And we talked about Aaliyah Boston being a hub, from the free throw line and just being able to find cutters. Like Caitlin Clark is not going to have to do everything. And I think that's a win. And if she still does have to do everything and still has just an obscene usage, I think that's a red flag for me because 100%. She shouldn't have to because of the team that they built around her now.
What's the Brandon Anderson rule where like the MVP's team usually doesn't win in the postseason because the MVP had to do too much in the regular season? It's actually probably good if Caitlin's at a level where her numbers aren't enough to win MVP and the team's actually doing well enough. So, all right, let's honestly, we touched on Storm Mercury. We actually talked through that a fair amount because that was the money line we were both on. So I think we wrap up there. I think we got a good episode. We gave a bunch of best bets at the top. If you're looking for those, they're about maybe 7-8 minutes in. Bryan gave some big picture thoughts, and then we gave those best bets. We're gonna have a weekend recap with Dano. That'll be out next Tuesday, and then next Thursday night we'll record for a Friday release. I'm gonna have Michael Fiddle on. We're gonna talk about sample sizes really early in the season. What's real, what's not. So that should be a pretty fun episode as well. If you like to tail the bets that we talked about today, look for that the quick slip link. Easy for me to say in the episode description. I'll also be posting these. Bryan, you'll probably be posting those in the app as well. Download the app. If somehow you're this far in the podcast and hearing our bets and don't have the app, go download that. I live in there. It's how I follow all the games that I am watching anyways. Even if I don't have a bet, I'm there. It's great for following scores in general. If you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe. That would be great. Thank you, David Payne, Gifford Gould. Once again, my internet managed to make their jobs difficult. I am endlessly thankful to the two of them because I'm making their jobs really hard right now. So on that note, let's enjoy this opening weekend of WNBA action and let's get buckets.